Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is Meditation and Mindfulness with Rabbi Adam Kligfeld.
Good morning, everyone, and hello to those who are joining me in person in my office in Los Angeles. Hello to those who are joining via Zoom. Hello to anyone who is watching on Facebook Live, on the synagogue's page, or at my profile. And hello to anyone who is following this on the Temple Beth Am podcast series asynchronously. It's Friday morning. Some of us have just finished our morning prayers. For some of you, this may be your morning prayers. For those of us who meditate after praying, it sometimes exposes that sometimes the prayer may have been lacking mindfulness, right? We pray the 35 pages of Shacharit, and then we get into a mindful mode. Sometimes it's hard to maintain it in the prayer, and sometimes not. And we're back in the rhythm where most weeks I'm going to try to draw something from the Parsha as an anchor to hold our attention or to focus our attention during the meditation. In Parshat Balotcha, which has a lot of stuff in it, some parashot are either one basic narrative or one basic set of laws, and some are kind of scattershot. And Balotcha has got a lot of different stuff. And there are a couple of verses that talk about something that we refer to in Rabbinic Judaism as Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. The Torah didn't have that phrase, but the Torah described it. What did it mean? Now, Pesach was the primary ritual observance that the Israelites learned about upon leaving Egypt, because it was the thing commemorating the thing they just experienced. And the Torah basically, as it says in Parshat Balotcha, basically now we're in the second year, and we take it for granted that it was supposed to be a yearly thing, but it's the second year that they came out, and God says, by the way, you're coming up on the anniversary, the Exodus anniversary, you got to do the Pesach. Right? And the Torah says that there were some people in the camp who were not able to perform the Pesach. Why? Because they were ritually impure. And I hate the word impure, but it's the best we can do in English, that in order to observe Pesach, which back then was not coming to a Seder, but eating the sacrifice of Pesach, and in order to eat the sacrifice of Korban Pesach, you had to be in a state of tahara, of non-impurity, of kind of life flowing. And the most intense way you could get out of that stage is if you're performing the mitzvah of taking care of someone who had died, because by being in contact with someone who has died, it's not a bad thing, but it draws life away from you. And in order for you to get back to the place of Tahara, you have to go through a purification process. The Torah says there were some people where it came to Pesach and they couldn't because they were not ritually available. And the Torah basically says that if that happens, and for the generations, if you miss Pesach, you can do a do-over. The Pesach is the 14th night, 15th day of the month of Nisan. You get a second chance a month later. 14th night, 15th day of the next month, which is the month of Iyar, basically a do-over in the Torah. All of that is to say that there are two reasons why the Torah says that you can, two excuses that would justify being eligible for Pesach Sheni. One is if you were tameh, you were impure because you had come into contact with a corpse, or you were in this vague category, derech rechoka, a faraway place. Some people, halachically, according to Jewish law, interpret that to be you were traveling. In the ancient world, you couldn't just do a Pesach Seder in your hotel room. Pesach was at the temple. It was one of the pilgrimage festivals. So if you were on a commerce trip to Cyprus or Tyre or wherever you went, and it was Pesach, and you had to be there, then you would come to the temple the same day or the following month. If you were literally derech rechoka, a faraway place. But the Talmud understands that it can also mean something spiritual. Right? Let's say you were in Jerusalem. You were not tameh. You had not come into contact with the corpse. And for some reason, you just weren't up to it. You just didn't have the spiritual openness to perform this holiday. The Torah gives what I consider to be, through the Talmud's eyes, a very gentle, okay, I understand. We're not always ready for the things that we're supposed to do. And rather than say, you snooze, you lose, you swung, you missed, and you're out, I'm giving you a second chance, right? It's a very gentle, tender, generous way of saying that you're supposed to be due and ready for a certain obligation. Sometimes you're not. The tradition, at least in this case, unless you want to extrapolate it larger, gives you an opportunity to come back. The meditation, I'm going to flip it around. What is our stance when someone in our life, whom we're expecting something of, whom we need something from, is not ready? Right? The easiest instinctive answer is to say, you screwed up, you failed, strike one. Can we embody a Torahitic generosity and say, maybe there was a reason, maybe sometimes just can't. Come back and we'll try it again. And can we live out that kind of spiritual generosity? So a long intro to a small, narrow little concept in the meditation. So with that in mind, second. Okay. With that in mind, if you have not already, I invite you to close your eyes. Holding things, you can put them down so you can claim these moments where it's just you and your body and your contact with whatever you're sitting on, and the contact point between your feet and the ground. So it's both that you're sitting down, but you're also held up, propped up, supported by the earth itself. Whatever couch or chair that is your foundation right now. Start allowing yourself to enjoy just this. Before we get to imagery, before we adapt our breathing, just this. An intentional quiet, or mostly quiet. A visual darkness that might create a mind illumination. A gentle and needed reminder for all of us human doings that sometimes we need to be a human being. For these few moments, there's nothing to see. There's nothing to want. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to want. There's nothing to do. You can slow and deepen your breath or just be aware of your breath. That's almost as good. Be aware as you breathe in through your nose, seeing if you can almost track the oxygen as it courses through your body and out through your mouth. An intentional expunging of that which you don't need, but somehow which the world does. We rely on so many people to do so many things for us on time, professionally and personally. But sometimes that person might be b'derech rechoka, far away, for a reason we may not be able to understand. See if you can embody and remember that feeling you have, that tightness, when it's not done, it's not delivered, the person did not show up. And see if you can hear your mind rehearsing your speech, castigating them. How could you not do it? What was so hard? I gave you plenty of time. Feel that heavy, tight, almost deliciously self-righteous assumption that there was no good excuse to be derech rechoka. And now try to embody the Torah and release it before you say it. How unburdening it is to be able to say and communicate. Okay, try again. You have another chance. I don't need to understand. I accept. Communicate what you would most need to hear. If for some reason you were b'derech rechoka, a faraway place, when you had been expected to show up, it's okay. Try again. I don't need to understand, but I accept. Feel your body and hear your mind just getting lighter and more joyful as you practice that stance, which is against your instinct, against your urge. It's okay. You can try again. I don't have to understand. And I accept. Rise to the surface. We'll say the closing meditation prayer 3 times together and go on our way. It's in front of you. May we and all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we all be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burdening attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. May we and all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we all be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burdening attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. May we and all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we all experience suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burdening attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. And I say to you all, Shalom, Namaste, Shabbat Shalom. See you soon.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.